Good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, October 20th, and this is Morning Market Movers, where we do live analysis for day trading. I am Todd Rich. I'm with Nadex. With me from Keep Trading Simple is Brian Caprice. Before Brian and I jump into hot spots in the markets today, I do need to quickly share this disclaimer that trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for everyone, that any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. And this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your education purposes. What are we looking at for hot spots in the markets today? Well, first, let's take a look at just some of the news that came out overnight. We did have the UK come out with their inflation numbers. They're coming out in line, but they're still high. No question about it. Well above that 2% mandate, up at 3%. The euro area, their inflation a little bit more in check, but still higher than it was. It was at 1.6, punching up to 1.9. And then Canada inflation numbers came in up above 4%. And so we are seeing some inflation. We're still seeing inflation. Maybe it's not growing at the pace it was, but it's not going the other
It's not
way
going
either.
backwards, right? It's
It's
not
not going
transitory.
backwards. It's still going up. Uh,
Not
the other thing we're
transitory.
going to talk about is we'll talk about crude oil today. But with the
Yeah.
inflation numbers, just the headline news, and I'll let Brian get into some of the other things that we had that just came out in the markets because they're causing things to move. We're seeing gold make a move up. It's punching up toward 1800 again. And in fact, I am going to quickly draw in the Fibonacci retracements from our recent highs to our recent lows, drag this over. It's heading up toward that 76 retracement level, just above 1790. We're going to talk about gold because we are seeing, and there was a recent in the last 15, 30 minutes, another spike. There's a reason for that. I'll let Brian get into it. The other place where we're also seeing that inflation take effect is silver. Silver also punching it actually retraced its, from its highs to its lows. It's already retraced all that, and if we back silver up, we can actually see that silver is in an extended uptrend. So we've got gold and silver up. We've got inflation that we're going to talk about, and then we're going to take a quick peek over at crude oil, mostly because crude oil is another hot spot in the market today. Yeah, crude oil is down in the overnight, but we also have that inventory report coming in. So that's what we're going to look at today. Brian, I'm going to flip it over to you. Let's talk about inflation and
Sure.
gold and silver, and we're going to talk about oil because right now in the equities, they're all taking a pause in the middle
Yeah.
of the week, even though it's earnings season. Nothing's going on over in equities, and we're not seeing a whole
Is
lot
that like
go
wedding
on with
season?
currencies.
Is that like wedding season at the same time?
It is.
I love that movie.
I
It's
wish we
wedding
could crash
season.
those
I
parties.
didn't even know. Another duo. I feel like we haven't found our duo yet. We thought it was dodgeball, but maybe it's the
Maybe
the
it's the
wedding
guys from
crashers.
Wedding. We could
Yeah,
try
could
that.
be, right? I mean, my nose is a little banged up. I could be Luke Wilson, right?
I might be able to
Um,
pull off a Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn, right? Maybe, right? Right. a lot of lines we could quote from that one. Anyway, yeah. So the inflation, we knew that today was going to be big. CPI across the board, having only the high and medium impact. I don't have the European data, and again, we kind of know what's going on with the European because there's so many countries involved with it. It's actually more of a country specific type inflation that we care about. Particularly Germany and France are the two that are the main ones you want to look at. But we know what's happening there. They have changed. They've tapered, but all they did was change and put it in targeted areas. So they haven't reduced, they haven't lowered, they haven't actually tapered. They've just strategically allocated to other areas that needed it the most, which I think is smart. But they've already kind of given us when they're starting to do their raises and everything else, which will be the start of the year in January. So the pound came in slightly disappointing. Again, it's the market sees this as a little bit of weakness. The pound was rocking pretty well. I said yesterday, don't be surprised if it comes in a little bit higher. It actually came a little bit lower, which again, I don't have a crystal ball. I could be wrong, but at the end of the day, I'm just looking for it to be right or wrong. You can see that both the pound yen and the pound dollar are down 30 and 46. Nothing, astronomical. Remember, yesterday it was a strong pound day, so you kind of expected, and we mentioned that 158 was it's the first time since like 2016 that it's been touched. But look for candles that are signifying that it's time to short. Well, those happen, and obviously they're both negative today. So, at the end of the day, technical analysis is what rules the day. CAD came in a little bit higher than expected. Now, you say it's 0.1, it's not that much, but again, when you're talking about 0 to 0.1, yeah, that's twice as much as what they thought. Not transitory. They're common, and again, you don't have to know the common median trim, but you can see that 2 out of the 3 are larger. Only one of them missed it by a slight bit. Again, Canada is one of those countries that they were the first to talk about aggressively starting to taper and starting to raise, and then kind of like held the brakes when nobody else wanted to do it. Well, now New Zealand has done it, and we're talking and looking for other countries that are going to be raising. Now that Canada has some data, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing some comments. And again, particularly if the dollar is going to keep being a little bit on the weaker side because the Fed is just kind of not there. It's indecisive at this point. And then Yellen is basically like invisible guy. I mean, she hasn't said anything. There's like no comments. Like I felt like we used to get a lot more comments from the,
been quiet, right? Yeah.
Huh?
She's been quiet.
Nothing for a woman that is as vocal as she is. It's like, did you want the job? Did you, like, I don't know. It's like a shadow. I mean, she makes a comment every here and like a little bit, but none of it is like, I don't feel like she is driving anything. Like I feel like, oh yeah, she's here. And that's it.
It could all be in the background and just not trying to get in front of the press and shake things up. So you never know.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, you question, this is not her first rodeo. It's not her first term. Did she actually want it? Or was it kind of like, hey, listen, we need you to do this. And she's not 100% there. You never know.
Let's jump in because we do have some quotes, I think, from.
Yep. Yeah, so I've mentioned, guys, the last couple of weeks, the last 2 weeks, actually, Jamie Dimon has made some comments. And this is where Todd and I had varying opinions that Todd doesn't think that they're going to be, mix it up. And I think they're going to mix it up fast. Jamie Dimon says they're going to be forced to do something. Well, another big name, and this is why we're seeing the movement today. If you guys have ever seen my presentations, I always like to try to end on a quote, something food for thought. Paul Tudor Jones is one of the guys that I will actually use quotes from because he's been around. He knows a few things, has some very big picture, kind of macro type opinions on things. He says that inflation could be worse than feared, the biggest threat to markets and society.
Society. Dang.
Yeah. I mean, and the reason he's going so big is because inflation it's a big thing. Remember, I mean, we haven't really talked about inflation a lot. It used to be inflation, gold, interest rates. This was something that only rich people worried about. But now we're seeing inflation. Countries are talking about it. Energy inflation is getting out of the way. I mean, everybody's talking about inflation right now.
The grocery store.
It is the new hot button.
It is. I mean, when it's going
and we talked yesterday that there was comments about hyperinflation, right? Like, yeah, I mean, what does that look like? And again, we talk about, I mean, all society right now is about cancel culture and equality. Hyperinflation is definitely not something that provides equality among different social classes. So This is a big guy. And again, now that a big guy, another, well-known, we've had Jamie Dimon as like one pillar, Paul Tudor Jones is another. Because of it, gold and silver are both spiking. Now, silver is over the 24 target. You can see since he's made this comment, it's jumped about 40-something cents. So it's almost on an ATR since he's made that comment. And we don't even have retail traders in here. And gold's the same thing. Look at this. Nice little pop up. Now, it's got some room to get back up to 1,800. But again, now this is 2 huge names, Wall Street names, are talking about the Fed is going to be moved because inflation is going to get so bad. Now we've got a big guy saying this could be a huge, and again, this is big. I mean, this is how countries used to control their economies, was by raising and lowering interest rates, controlling their inflation in their countries. This is a big deal. So, is this the push that silver is going to take to get to 100? I don't think so. But I did say as soon as any big names or anybody really starts acknowledging that inflation is here and we need to control inflation, that's where gold and silver start to move.
Yeah.
What's interesting about this as well to add on, and again, would I be looking to get long right now? No, the move is kind of in. This is like, when there's a headline, it's kind of unpredictable. It's hard to figure out. But again, will there be a reversal? Yeah, there will be profit taking. When profit taking steps in, there will be a pullback. And if you want to get long after the pullback. Or, again, that would be where you want to short it and play the pullback. So there's 2 ways to do it. But the interesting thing about it is if you look at Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin for the last month or 2 months, every time there was inflationary numbers, gold was like asleep, but we saw the money going to Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin's doing nothing. Zero.
I think the Bitcoin
0.9.
The Bitcoin moves have a lot going on around the ETF that just launched, and there was a lot of press. And what's interesting there is if anyone thinks you're actually investing in Bitcoin, trading the ETF, go look at what the ETF is again. It's an ETF around futures. And So there's going to be a premium in futures just because, I mean, that's how futures work. Or they,
Yeah.
they will not move directly in line with the price of Bitcoin, and you do not actually have Bitcoin. So I just
Yeah.
think that's interesting. Everyone was talking, oh my God, here comes the ETF here. It's going on the New York Stock Exchange. It's going on the
Hmm.
New York Stock Exchange. It's going on the New York Stock Exchange as an ETF of futures. So
Hmm. Yeah,
just
and
kind of interesting there.
remember though, inflation has been which has been before the ETF drive.
Yeah,
Inflation is what has driven Bitcoin. Now the same, and again, more official inflation out there, more official comments, and
going
what
right
people are
into
seeing on
gold and
inflation
silver.
did
Yeah.
absolutely nothing to it. So
Yep.
again, you can see where the driving factors are. It's like the squirrel looking for the shiny nut. Oh, inflation, Bitcoin, right? The answer to everything is not Bitcoin, and that's kind of what we're seeing right now. And now that this ETF is up there and we've seen the price rally high, high, high. I mean, you've been in the business for a few years, right? You see what happens when a lot of emphasis and news media and coverage and everything gets sent to something. All of a sudden, it drops very, very fast.
Was it buy
So,
the rumor, sell the news?
yeah.
So
And again,
anyhow,
and the
that's
question
the
is,
thing.
does that propel silver and gold? That's where I think this is an interesting because again, we're getting the
Right.
big push here. If all those people are no longer interested in the shiny nut is now real inflation, that's where it all transfers back into gold and silver. So we could have some big spikes. Like I said, I will not be surprised if we get to 1800 whether today or tomorrow. God forbid Powell says anything. That could be the next way to punch us higher. And again, looking at the silver front, silver is now stabilized and pushed through. We had that area of 24 where we said it would probably come back to, and it did. It had a very, very difficult time pushing through. And then, Paul said what he said. We went up to 24.20. Question is, we have that $25 target. Is this what's in the near term future for silver? Now, I still don't think it's doing this going up to 100, but
Right.
coming over here to 25. Could we get to 25 by the end of the week? Sure, absolutely. We get another big name that mentions that this could be the worst inflation crisis that we've seen, that, this could be the housing bubble, but inflationary. Again, everybody loves cheap money in Wall Street, but you got to pay the piper eventually. And if it's coming down,
And if we do know that silver is sort of the meme
yeah,
commodity.
it's the Main Street way of trading inflation, not the Wall Street way of trading inflation. That's gold.
Okay.
Gold is naturally integrated, and again, silver does have silver and gold both have a kind of industrial piece as well. Silver maybe a little bit more than gold, but right now it is Main Street's way to play inflation versus Wall Street's way to play inflation is gold. So
All right. With the oil inventory report coming out,
yeah,
let's just quickly jump over and cover oil before we call it a day,
yep.
and let everyone get ready for the open.
Yeah, here's the API from last night. API forecast was 2.2 million barrels surplus. Again, extra oil that we have, right? And the reality came in at 3.2, so it came in higher than expected. So once again, another week of surplus over at the API. EIA comes in at 10:30. Right now, the forecast is almost identical. It's 2.1 surplus. So again, I mentioned it yesterday. That's 3 weeks in a row right now. The last one was a big one, right? It's supposed to be 1.1, came in at 6.1. It's setting up for a big move again. Although I will say a little bit different than what we've seen in previous weeks. This one in the overnight session, and really since yesterday, since the number came out,
Pushing down. Yeah.
here's what the number came out, guys. It's been straight down. So the question is, are we going to find some buyers? And right now, there's kind of some buyers over there. It's not a very, very strong push. That's all the way down at 80. Question is, what happens in the next hour and a half here before this release? Do we get the continued push down? And remember, we have a lot of these plays where we have one direction in the European session, which again, if I'll just move this over, it's pretty much one direction in the European session down. Are they preparing for a number? Maybe we have a down draw. Everybody's expecting a surplus. Does that give us the ability to punch higher? Only way to tell is do your 30s, 5s, and 1s at basically at 10 o'clock today, and we'll see kind of what the U.S. oil trader does for that first 30 minutes to set this up for a news-based trade today.
And
But
35s and ones, just in case you're not familiar. At 10 o'clock, you start. Let's 30 minutes going into the inventory report. Start looking at your 30-minute charts. As you
mhm.
get closer to the actual inventory, drop down to 5-minute charts, and as the number comes out, drop into 1-minute charts. Looking for those moves. Check those short-term binary options, because if it starts moving, those short-term binary options could create a great opportunity. In fact, here I'll flip this over here for a second. When we could see that you've got actually quite there are going to be some strikes in here. Now we've seen oil making some moves yesterday. Yeah, I mean, it made some pretty dramatic. It ended up moving through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 binary option strikes. Check these. I mean, you can certainly be looking at some of these out of the money ones that might not. Now you're gonna have to wait for them to reset because these ones here are gonna expire in an hour, but we'll have new hourlies up there. Check those
Mhm.
short-term binary options for potential opportunity when that number comes out. Remember, you do not have to hold those binary options until settlement either. You could get a big move. You could potentially, if if you bought a low probability um, binary option, you could always liquidate it uh, before expiration. So
Mhm.
that is the 35-1 that Brian is talking about. I'm
Yep.
giving it to him, right?
I
We
guess
could
they have
point him
to
to your
do that to do
video.
their homework. That's how trading works. You got to do your homework and know what I'm talking about. So, and don't forget, guys. Last but not least, it is not. I want to get you guys out of here. Natural gas, another day under $5. It did rally back up
Ooh,
again. It came right off that level that we had talked about yesterday, right here at 508. Yesterday morning we were sitting down here and we mentioned that it would probably come back up. You can see that it hit it, pushed down, hit it, and then also was collapsing in the overnight. Don't forget, natural gas inventories are tomorrow, so we can mention that and see where we are. But again, oil has a big day down. Natural gas will probably also follow. And again, if we can get down to $4.76, that's our overall target and a potential area for if we get a balance, we can go higher in the overnight. But watch that one for tomorrow. All right.
all right. All right. With that, any questions for Nadex, please email us customerservice@nadex.com. Brian is also very accessible. You can reach Brian at support@keeptradingsimple.com. What have we talked about today? Today has been all about, well, we had the inflation numbers come out globally. Clearly, inflation isn't going away. It certainly isn't going down. It's only incrementally going up. We've had some pretty large comments. That Paul Tudor Jones comment actually moved the market. As soon as that hit, we saw a spike in both gold and silver. Gold and silver in play today. Take a look at those markets. We're seeing some volatility. Oil, U.S. Oil inventories this morning at 10:30. Do I have that right? 10:30 Eastern.
Yep.
Okay, I want to make sure I said I dropped the link in there. You could be following him there. Take a look at oil later this morning. There might be an opportunity there. With that, Brian and I will catch you tomorrow morning, and we want to let you go get ready for the trading day today. Good luck in the markets, everyone.